Am I the a-hole for not inviting my brother to my wedding and telling my parents and sister that if they try to bring him, they will all be asked to leave? I have an older sister and a younger brother. Growing up, I was close to both my sister and brother. Then around high school, my brother started flirting with the girls I liked, even girls I was dating. Ended up in a relationship with one of my exes right after we broke up, and then he ended up sleeping with my ex-fiancée while we were together and 3 months away from our wedding. After that, I cut him off. I said we were done. He was dead to me and I no longer had a brother and never would again. It's been 7 years and I'm engaged again. My wedding is actually this January. It's small, intimate, with our closest friends and family. But my parents and sister are upset that my brother didn't get an invite. But I told them he was not welcome. They said he's still my brother, and I said no. He stopped being my brother a long time ago. He reached out via social media and asked if we could let the past be the past and move on. That he had always regretted what he did. He knows he treated me horribly, but he has changed so much throughout his 20s and wants to make amends. I blocked him and didn't reply. Then my sister said she would just bring him as her +1 if I won't be the bigger man. So I told her and my parents, they were there during this, that if any of them bring him with them, I will make sure they all leave and they will not be welcomed back to the wedding, and that I'm serious about this. They are saying I'm an a-hole, and that if I'm happy, I should be open to reconciling. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Yes, people grow and change, but the harm is done. You can't do it. Plus, it's your day. Do what makes you happy. I will say consider reconciliation in the future when you're not pressured into it. You might be able to foster a level of civility. He should cut them all out of his life. The family's on good terms with a crappy person, which makes them crappy. Not a-hole at all, but I think it's extreme to cut them all off for actions that weren't theirs. Parents won't just never talk to Opie's brother. He's their son, albeit an a-hole one. It's not Opie's place to dictate the parents-brother relationship. In the same way, it's not the family's place to dictate Opie's, lack of, relationship with a brother. Opie did all the right things and shouldn't be pressured into reconciliation. If they choose to ignore his reasonable boundaries, then maybe it is time to consider cutting them all off his life. Not stay home. You're not obligated to reconcile within someone else's time frame. The fact that your sister believes he would choose to come if she asked him as her +1 would seem to indicate he might not have changed all that much. Also, that's some nerve on her part. The wedding isn't about your parents, your sister, or your brother. It's about you and your fiancé. This. He is forcing himself back into Opie's life as if he is entitled to be there. His behavior gives me the feeling as if he thinks more about how he will look like towards others if he isn't invited to his brother's wedding. Not today home. Info. Did he actually say, "I'm sorry" to you? Did he describe how he would treat you differently if you let him back into your life? He did say he was sorry, and I'm not sure if he said what he would do differently. I didn't really read the whole thing. It was long AF, and I was not interested. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother he downgraded? My 28 female brother Mike, 33 male, was married to Lisa, 31 female for 4 years, until last year when he was caught cheating with Penny, 29 female. My ex-sister-in-law was reserved, sweet, and was straight edge, no alcohol/drugs. Mike loves to party and went to court-ordered rehab before he was even 21. When Mike met Lisa, he sobered up, got an apprenticeship, and really turned his life around. He also threw that all away on Penny. Penny knew he was married. She got him drunk, and that is how the affair started. Penny is loud, disgusting, obnoxious, and encourages my brother to drink. And he thinks she's just so fun and the life of the party. We were at a family party this past weekend, and Mike and Penny were there. Some cousins we hadn't seen in years were there too and were introduced to Penny. And Mike introduced her as his upgrade. Cue major side eye for me. My brother noticed and pulled me aside later. He asked then why the attitude. That Penny was clearly an upgrade. I asked him to explain that comment. And he said that she's blonde, curvy, and fun, whereas Lisa looked like a librarian with no front. I decided to clear things up for him. Penny is obnoxious, rude, slovenly. Her hair is poorly bleached, and she smells like fungus. No one looks at her like a prize to be won. No one is jealous of him, which he thinks they are. His best friend won't even talk to him anymore because Penny made a dead baby joke to his wife after a miscarriage. I let him know that he actually chose alcohol over his ex. and Penny just encouraged him to do it because she had a crush on him for years. He called me a witch, and I told him same scenes. Pretty sure I am the a-hole on this one, to be honest. Not the a-hole. Your brother picked someone who makes dad baby jokes to his best friend after a trauma, costing him the friendship. That's not an upgrade. While I do agree with everything you say, I don't know. For some reason, something about calling a human an upgrade versus downgrade just doesn't sit well with me. It almost feels like you value them less as a person, which I think is incorrect. Everyone sucks here in my opinion. Not the a-hole. Sounds like Penny's a downgrade, but it's the grade that Mike deserves. In business, they call it right sizing. You're the a-hole for attacking her. Your brother is the one who cheated. His choice, his responsibility, not hers. Yeah, I agree. The looks were a low blow. Sleeping with a married man knowingly makes her a home wrecker. She didn't say the vows, but she helped into cheating. It takes two to tango, and no cheater waltz by themselves. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my ex-husband's pregnant wife cry? So, my both 29 ex cheated on me with Rose, 30. She knew he had a wife and 3 kids because she was both my maid of honor and cousin. It's no shock that she doesn't like the fact she has to share my ex's attention with his 3 kids, 9 female, 4 male, and 3 male, and limits how much time we speak, aka co-parenting. So when she announced her pregnancy a few months ago, it was honestly the countdown before my kids were pushed aside. Like, obviously she isn't all to blame as their father should put them first. Since she's pissed on that stick, there's been multiple weeks where she was too ill to have the children stay, or they had to come home early. Then she's miraculously is well enough to go out to dinner or see a movie. They come to me a few weeks ago and suggested that basically 2 weeks before her due date and until the baby is 2 weeks old, that my ex wouldn't take them but FaceTime and visit every day, minus when she goes into labor plus a few days after, which was fair, and I agreed. Till tonight. I got a phone call from my crying 9-year-old. Apparently my cousin brought herself McDonald's back for dinner, and when my 3-year-old asked for a chicken nuggets, she screamed at him, calling him a fat pig, then went on a rant on how much she hated having them over because they make her sick. By the time I got there, their POS father was waiting outside with my very upset kids. I asked my sister to get them into the car and pull down a little bit so they wouldn't hear anything. Before I could talk, he blamed it on her hormones and tried to laugh it off. But I told him he was a crappy father and a coward. Then cousin waddled up to the door and suggested that the kids don't come back till the baby's at least 5 months old. She's 6 months pregnant, by the way. And no FaceTime or visits when she turns 8 months until the baby is 3 months old, so they have a chance to bond. I stared at her till she tried to blame it on her bleeding and breastfeeding. Had enough. So I said, they're kids, not sharks. So the bleeding BS wouldn't work, wicked stepmom. We have been trying to push my kids out since day one. But guess what? You can have him completely like a man that throws away his kids for some no-good woman. And I don't want my boys to think that's how to act. And I don't want you around my daughter for the same reason I pity your kid. She started crying and my ex called me cold-hearted witch. I said thanks, then walked away. After all the phone calls and calming down, I think I went into a-hole mode. Now for the top comments before the little update. I'm going to say not the a-hole. She clearly wants to start over with her husband and exclude the kids. Shame on your husband for not sticking up for his own kids. Yeah, that's the worst part. He should have stuck up for his kids long ago. I think he's way more at fault than the current wife. Truthfully, yes, you're right. I know I hate her, but he has full blame because if I was dating a guy and he didn't treat my kids like his own, we wouldn't be together. Not stay home, Mama Bear. I think you should give your ex's wife what she wants and try to get full custody of the kids. Oh, I am. Don't worry about that. No dad is better than a crappy one. Not stay home. I feel so bad for your kids. Your ex is the a-hole for letting someone kick his kids out of his life. They won't forget how horrible him and his wife have treated them. It may be best for you to keep them away. My daughter cried herself to sleep asking why her father didn't want her. I feel horrible because this has caused drama with my ex-in-laws too. So it's obviously gotta hurt her more. Edit. To the people sending me messages offering me money to help pay for a lawyer. Even though you're amazing people with good hearts, it's not a money issue. I've not gone full custody yet because, and this is the most heartbreaking reason, my kids love their father so much. My ex is my 9-year-old daughter's world. Her face lights up when he drops by, and she's smiling the whole day. but unfortunately she cries herself to sleep when they cut the visit short. So for months I fought with myself about going full custody. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving early for my husband's party? I, 28 male, and my husband, 30 male, are newlyweds. We got married this August and had a very small wedding. We just bought a wonderful townhouse that is great for us and our 2 dogs. We both work full-time and split the bills. All of the families get along very well, and we couldn't be happier. The only issue that we have is that his friend group likes to make jokes and pull pranks on people. They post all of their videos on social media and will pull pranks on people that aren't expecting them. I have voiced my concern with my husband, and he will tell them to tone it down. But when my husband hangs with them, his personality will change. My sister, 25 female, had a birthday party this past June, and they decided to squirt invisible ink all over her dress. She was devastated, and I spent the rest of the night fighting with my husband. His reaction is always the same. It's just me having fun with the boys. We celebrated his birthday on Monday and had his party at his parents' house. I went over earlier to help set up and baked my husband's favorite dessert, Dutch apple pie. I put some whipped cream on the pie and placed it in the fridge. The party seemed to be going great until I saw one of his friends carrying the pie I made and slams it into my husband's face, wishing him a happy birthday. Husband was laughing and went to clean himself off. I was shocked and speechless. I said goodbye to his family and left. When husband came home, he was pissed that I left and told me to take a joke. I have been giving him the cold shoulder since. Am I the a-hole for leaving early for my husband's birthday party? Not the a-hole. A reminder that if everyone isn't laughing, it's not a joke. It's cruelty. Plain and simple. Your husband and his friends need to grow up. Nobody else was laughing except him and his friends. They destroyed your work. If you weren't laughing, then it wasn't a joke. Why is he okay with your work and effort for his birthday being destroyed as a joke? Not the a-hole. His friends clearly don't care how their actions affect others. Your husband is completely disregarding your feelings, and wasting the dessert you made especially for him was disrespectful. If he wants to interact with his buddies like this, he needs to do so away from your family and any other innocent bystanders. While his friends may consent to pranking each other, the other victims clearly did not. Not the a-hole. You spent time and effort baking his favorite dessert. What happens if other people wanted some and it's not available because his friend did that? It's one thing to bring a separate pie to do that with, but they destroyed something you did for him. Can't have fun with the boys without being a nuisance to people around you, which sounds like they are. Your sister definitely didn't ask to be part of their pranks. She did not want to be part of any of the pranks. She had no idea it was invisible ink until they told her. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my sister's wedding with my husband after he got kicked out of it? My female 30, sister's female 27 wedding was last week. She and her husband chose formal attire as the dress code for their wedding. It was mentioned beforehand to give guests the heads up. But when my husband, male 33, found out, he didn't like it. He didn't like it at all, saying he didn't think it was fair to dictate what guests wear in the first place, and that this entire rule was stupid and unnecessary. Then complained in person to my sister and her now husband. He said he wanted to wear something casual, which is what he usually wear, and asked if they could turn a blind eye and just let him attend wearing casual since his family. My brother-in-law said rules are for all with no exceptions. My husband repeatedly expressed how uncomfortable he was wearing a suit, and that all of his old suits are just lame and made him look older. My brother-in-law stated this was the official dress code and asked my husband to either follow it or not go. My husband came home after that, saying my brother-in-law was power-tripping and acting like a typical spoiled white kid who wants everything his way and control others as they were puppets. I said that it's his wedding, so of course he gets the final say, and suggested that he wear his newest suit and buy a tie. At the day of the wedding, I went early to help my sister since I had a part in it, and then suddenly we heard noise coming from the entrance. It was my husband, wearing blue jeans and a red Garrett t-shirt, arguing with my brother-in-law and the staff, insisting on getting inside. I rushed to get involved, and my brother-in-law repeatedly asked my husband to go put on a suit or not come back. My husband refused, and they exchanged few choice words and Mom got involved, but my brother-in-law told him to leave. My husband resisted, then told me to grab my stuff so we could leave together. But I said no. He looked stunned, but I said I didn't do anything. Besides, I wanted to be with my sister and had work to do. He got upset and left. He blew up at me after I got home, saying I had no problem standing there watching my sister and her husband humiliate and kick him out, then refusing to take a stand and leave with him. I told him this was the outcome of his stubbornness, and he replied saying, since when wanting to have a freedom to wear whatever I want meant stubbornness? He said I should have supported him and went home with him, and not let my family mistreat him like that. Not today home. Your husband had plenty of notice to find something appropriate to wear, was repeatedly told the dress code, and he had it turned up in jeans and a t-shirt. He didn't even attempt to dress nice casual in slacks and a button-up. He's definitely the a-hole in this situation. You support your spouse when they are in the right, not when they are behaving like toddlers that don't want to wear their socks. The husband is an extra a-hole for his typical white spoiled kid comment, just because he did get what he wanted. Dress codes are normal for wedding, work, but he wants to be the big exception. In Germany, we call it Extrawurst. Whining about freedom and acting like a dress code is oppression? Sounds like a typical white spoiled kid to me. Not today home. You didn't humiliate him. He humiliated himself. He was repeatedly told the rules, and if he couldn't follow them, he shouldn't show up. Hopefully when he comes down, he can be the better person and apologize. If he can't, good luck navigating that. But do not waste a minute thinking you and your family are to blame over his hurt feelings or embarrassment. Not today home. Your husband sounds like an entitled prick. No idea why I married him. Totally agree. His freedom is more important than anyone else's wishes. Like he is the most important person anywhere. That makes him a baby and a huge a-hole and certainly not ready for marriage. Not today, Alopi, but how do you stand him? Am I the a-hole for not delaying my wedding because my sister is going through a terrible divorce? My sister Rachel is separating from her husband Mark. Somebody anonymously sent Mark a letter in the mail claiming their 3 kids weren't his, ages 1, 3, and 4. Mark took a paternity test because the letter was so detailed that he had a feeling it might be true. The results came back and he wasn't the father of any of the kids. And Mark now wants nothing to do with my sister or my nieces and nephew. It's been hard on her, and everyone has been shaken. The problem is my fiancé and I are getting married soon. Everything is set for the end of October, and everyone is excited. But Rachel. She's told me multiple times to change the wedding date, so she can heal from the trauma of her husband abandoning her and their children. I told her no, and she burst into tears claiming I wasn't being supportive and that she wasn't coming. My fiancé's family have all booked time off to come to this wedding because they live out of state. But she claims I'm choosing his family over her. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. All 3 of their children aren't his? That she repeatedly cheated on her husband and is now dealing with the consequences does not mean you don't get to move along with your life's plan. How would that sound anyway? I'm postponing my wedding so my sister that basically cheated on her husband 3 times can feel supported. Not stay home. I can't believe none of the kids are his. Poor guy. Your sister is the a-hole. She's at fault for her marriage collapsing, then demands everyone else to stop their lives so she can heal from the trauma of the consequences of her actions catching up to her. Definitely the a-hole. The nerve of her to say he abandoned his wife and children. None of the children were his. He is not the father, and they're young enough, at least, to not be too affected if she puts in the work. She probably won't. Not the a-hole. Your sister caused much of her own trauma. She lied, and I would assume cheated on her husband, so she left her. She wasn't just abandoned. Enjoy your wedding. Probably best if she wasn't there anyways. Obi's ex-brother-in-law is the only one entitled to feel trauma. And those poor kids, especially the older ones. Not today, Obi. You already had the day basically ready. People already have the time off. And personal bias. Halloween wedding? That better go through. Your sister talks about getting over trauma, yet she's the one that I'm sure broke a man. Enjoy your wedding and bust out a monster bash. She can take this time to either look for a sitter for the kids or learn how to deal with her own choices in life. If I were a guest and had arranged time off, transportation, hotel, etc. for this wedding, and then the date was moved because someone who is neither the bride nor groom cheated on their spouse years ago, don't bother inviting me to the new date. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my inheritance with a sibling? I don't have anyone I can share these thoughts with in person, so I'm hoping you guys can help me resolve this. I, 20 male, am a single child, or at least I thought I was. Then just over a year ago, I discovered that I have a sister, Lucy. The story goes that my mother had a child with her first boyfriend while she was in college, and they couldn't support her, so she opted for adoption at birth. My father was aware of this, but I was never told. Anyways, about a year ago, she made contact with our mother. They've gotten on pretty well, kept in touch, and go on the odd lunch. Lucy's also attended a couple of our family events this past year. Her and I get along fine as well. We're different people, so not friends. So I sort of see her as an acquaintance/friend of the family, I guess. It's a little odd because I know we're closely related, but at the same time, she doesn't feel like family, if that makes sense. Okay, so there's the backstory. Now on to the dilemma. My grandparents on my mother's side both passed away a few years ago. My mother was their only child, and I their only grandchild, and they left their entire estate to me. This was known to my parents and me before they passed, as they had expressed it when they made their will. My parents are well off financially. Mom's a nurse while Dad's a doctor, and so they were fine with the arrangement. I was given access to the money on my 20th birthday, and the sum of money was much larger than I expected, totaling around $6 million. This is why I can't really talk about this with anyone impartial, because I don't really want friends etc. to know. Anyway, a few weeks ago my mother sat me down and asked me to share the money with Lucy. Now here's the thing. Like I said, to me Lucy is essentially an acquaintance. I know we're related by blood, but I don't exactly feel the type of connection to her that would merit giving her such a large sum of money, or any money at all for that matter. So I explained that to my mother, and she wasn't exactly happy with my answer. She believes I'm being extremely selfish, and that Lucy could very much benefit from this money as well, since she's still a college student and in debt. Here's where I think I might be the a-hole. I don't really see that as my problem. I believe families who feels like family, not who shares your DNA. Secondly, my grandparents were aware of Lucy's existence, even though they never met her, and they chose to leave everything to me all the same. Also, it is not as though Lucy grew up poor in the foster system or anything. She was adopted at birth by what seems like two great people. Her adoptive parents are an accountant and a teacher. I do not plan to just hoard the money. I am starting law school this year, and plan to use it to start my own firm once I'm finished. So go forth and judge me, please. Am I being a selfish a-hole here, or am I justified in thinking that simply being related by blood doesn't merit any claim here? Not a-hole. Your grandparents were aware of Lucy's existence, and they chose not to leave her an inheritance. I'm guessing, since she was legally adopted, your grandparents didn't feel it was necessary. Also, Opie's mother was obviously aware of Lucy's existence, but seemingly did nothing about it until now. Either way, not a-hole. Yeah, the adoption took away any legal right, at least where I'm from, to the inheritance. Mom tries to make up for giving her daughter away by giving away Opie's money. Though I get the sentiment, this will only divide a family. Really hope she didn't tell her daughter about the inheritance, as that could have set her up for a lot of hurt and fighting. Also, depending on where Opie lives, you should refrain from giving even a small amount of money, as that could be counted as admittance if the sister ever should try to sue. Not a-hole. Your mother's parents could have made provisions for your mother and/or the daughter she gave up for adoption if they wanted. Your mother is free to make whatever arrangements she sees fit with her estate, but your grandparents made their wishes known when they left their estate to you. I agree. Your parents seem to be doing well, and now that you have that money, they could focus their finances on her. My father makes a majority of the family's income, and this isn't his child. So I don't know how he would feel about financing her. Should have mentioned that. By the same token, she is not your child. I generally agree with the no a-hole commentary. I'm just going to point out that if you don't share, that's totally valid. Just don't be surprised later if your mom leaves more to Lucy than you might otherwise expect, as her way of equalizing. Next story. Am I the a-hole for lashing out at my sister for not shutting up about adoption decision? My girlfriend, 25 female, is almost 4 months pregnant. We try to be careful with protection, but I guess we messed up, and here we are. Her and I, 25 male, decided adoption will be best. We want kids in the future, but we're both working minimum wage jobs, barely making it okay with the bills every month. And we talked about it a lot before we decided it just wouldn't be fair if our baby had to live in horrible conditions because it will get expensive when we could find someone who might be able to. We found this couple through friends of friends, and we are getting to know them pretty well, seeing what kind of people they are. My family knows we're choosing this route, and for the most part, support it. My sister, 35, however, keeps pushing that we keep the baby. She has 3 kids herself, and all she keeps saying is parenthood is hard, but it's rewarding. I've told her, yeah, we get that. We want kids, but in the future with better jobs and us not counting change in our pockets to take the train to work. It's been hard enough accepting the reality that we won't get to raise our first baby together, and her constant comments don't make it better. Even when I ask her, tell me how we're gonna support a baby, she just said she doesn't know, but you'll find a way. I've told her many times to stop talking about it because of everything it does to us, and she's not even being helpful. Today at my mom's, she still brings it up again, just saying she really thinks we're making a mistake and talking about how tough it'll be as a parent, but it'll be worth it. My girlfriend got all upset. She went to the bathroom, and I don't know, I just told her to shut up already. Exactly like that. And that I'm sick of her always talking about this. We know everything we're going to miss out on, so stop talking already. Wasn't like screaming or anything, but I did raise my voice at her because I was just so frustrated already. We didn't stay long, but yeah, my sister does think I was an a-hole for having that reaction, and she didn't deserve to be told shut up for simply caring about her future niece/nephew. We've never fought like this before, but I really couldn't take it anymore. She won't talk to me, still thinks I was in the wrong. It's hard to see how, but maybe I missed something. Was I an a-hole? Now for the comments. Not an a-hole. You made a very hard, extremely mature decision. Your sister has zero say in it, and if she haven't understand it by now, I guess now she does. If she cares about the baby so much, she can adopt it herself. Good luck, Opie. Funny thing is, I suggested that if she's so adamant about us keeping the baby, but she just told me to stop being ridiculous. Yeah, sounds like she cares so much about future nephew/niece. Not stay home. You've thought about it thoroughly and made what you feel is the best decision for yourselves and your child. Your sister needs to back off and realize it's not a decision you made lightly. If she's that adamant you keep the child, is she planning to help you out financially? Unless she is, she has no say in anything. As someone who struggled with fertility, thank you. Thank you for doing the best for your child. Thank you for giving someone a chance at parenthood that they may not have had otherwise. And good luck with everything. You're doing an incredible, selfless thing. I've brought that up before, and obviously her answer is don't be ridiculous, and then that she has 3 kids she's already supporting. That means a lot. Usually don't get all watery eyes for a comment, but this one does it. Hasn't been easy, especially for my girlfriend. I wish we didn't have to make this choice, but we know this is for the best. I really hope things worked out for you. Hey Opie, I don't know if you're planning an open adoption. Sounds like it. But regardless, a lot can happen over years. I advise you and your girlfriend to write a letter to the baby explaining your decision and how much you love it and wish the timing could have been better. Give it to the adoptive parents. If anything happens, they move away, the relationship sours, something happens to you and/or your girlfriend, etc., then the child will always have your reasons and your love. Something like that, yeah. They'd like for the baby to know about us as they grow up, even if we're not in contact. We're doing something like that, but it's more like a personal journal from each of us, a letter and some pictures. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for RSVPing no to my stepsister's wedding? My stepsister Serena and I have been stepsisters since I was 5 and she was 9, but we have known each other longer. I honestly don't remember my life before she or her mom were in it. Serena's dad passed away when she was a baby, and my mom died 18 months after my dad married my stepmom. So we essentially lived together for a large chunk of our childhoods. But she never did consider me family or her sister. She's older, so I get that the experience was different for her, and she remembers a life before me. I never took it too personally, though I did try to make us closer over the years, but she was never interested. People used to tell me that once we were adults, it would be easier because we'd be at the same stage in life. Serena's getting married in a little over 2 months, and I decided to RSVP no to the invite. I was always a little awkward about going, but I would have. But last month, my parents invited Serena's bridesmaids over to thank them for being part of the wedding. There, I learned that one of her friend's younger sister was also going to be a bridesmaid. This is a friend she has known since senior year of high school. The younger sister is apparently someone she considers a sister. The youngest sister then told me Serena always said she was the sister she never had and stuff. That she had specially asked her to be in the wedding because she considered her as close to a baby sibling as she ever got, and wanted her there. Said nothing, but it just made me realize that she actively chose not to try with me, but could choose to try with one of her friend's siblings she met years after meeting me. Through talking with Serena's little sister, I realized she had made such a big effort to hang out with and spend time with her. It went to her milestones like graduation or even big birthdays. Sweet 16, 21st. She never showed up to that stuff for me, or when she did, my 21st she did show for. She made no effort to hang out with me. She went because her mom had paid for an open bar, and some of her family was going to be there. I don't remember her even speaking to me that night. So I RSVP'd no, and her future husband sent me an email, with my name wrong, that Serena didn't want her mom to know. But then he went and mentioned it to my dad and now it has blown up. My dad asked why I wouldn't attend, and her mom is saying that after all she has done for me, I should show up and be part of the family event. To me, I might be their family, but Serena has made it very clear I'm not hers. I don't think I did anything wrong, but I feel guilty too because this has made ripples in my family. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, Serena's little sister had no idea I was her stepsister. The little I gathered is, she thought I was a niece of my dad, or as she put it, her mom's husband's niece. Another point, because it may be relevant, is she doesn't talk to me. I make the effort, but she does not communicate with me of her own volition. I was always the one trying to engage with her. Even as basic as a hi, I don't get from her. Not day home. Why go to a wedding of someone who has made zero effort to make you feel important to them? I wouldn't go. Not day home. Would Opie even be invited to be part of the photos? Or at best, be tolerated as part of them? It's okay. You don't need to humiliate yourself to make others happy. You did your best. You don't owe anyone more than that. Don't feel bad. Your parents and step are the a-holes for guilting you rather than your stepsister. It's clear she doesn't consider you a sister. You're not obligated to carry on the charade. I know I've been indifferent at best to you your entire life, and I don't acknowledge our relationship at all. Actually, I don't even really like you. But our parents want me to invite you, and I really want more presents. Does she even want you to come? Will she even say hi? Will she notice if you're not there? Oh, will she even say how she knows you? Or will you be an old family friend? Not stay home. Don't feel bad. You didn't do it. Stepsister caused this. You are over 21. Sit your dad and stepmom down and explain what you wrote here. Say, assure stepmom it has nothing to do with how much you appreciate what she's done for you. That you don't blame her for how sister treats you. But at this point in your lives, you give up. Include the tidbit about the soon-to-be husband didn't even get your name right and told you to keep it from her. That while you tried, you now accept it's never going to change. And hearing about the little sister she always wanted helped you see that more clearly. It makes you sad, but you won't spend any more time being the only one putting effort in. I'd put cash on guessing they didn't want the mom to know about the email, because she probably already talked to sister about you not being in the wedding. Stepmom is probably freaking out because she knows her child is being an A. Can't control your reaction either. It may be being forced to admit the ugly truth about her kid and the relationship between her and your dad. Tell them you hope her day goes the way she wants it, that they both enjoy the day, but you do not wish to pretend anymore. Am I the a-hole for choosing to go on a trip with my girlfriend instead of taking care of my struggling brother's son? For context, my 24 male brother Luke, 31 male, his wife Emma, 28 female, and their son Kyle, 4 male, moved to my city last year because Emma got a new job. They would occasionally ask me to watch Kyle because I work from home with very flexible hours. I personally do not like kids at all, but I was happy to do it at a time because I wanted to help them. It was not that often, maybe once or twice every 2 weeks, and Kyle was very well behaved. Now, the issue started near the end of last year when Luke decided to change careers. He was previously working remotely as well, but his new job required him to go to work as a lot more often and make substantially less money. This left them depending on me more and more to take care of Kyle. It went from once or twice every 2 weeks to around 3 days out of the week. To make matters worse, Kyle's behavior changed drastically. To be completely honest, I can barely stand a kid anymore, constantly running around and screaming while I'm trying to work, and just overall being a little turd. My sister-in-law, Emma, was over the other day picking up Kyle and made some comments about getting rid of some of the dangerous furniture in my house, like tables with glass edges and stuff, so that my home is safer for their son, and made a joke about baby-proofing my house because they're planning to have a daughter. This ticked me off, but I didn't say anything. The situation hit a breaking point last Friday when I was talking about the 1.5-week-long trip I was going on with my girlfriend on the 15th. Me and my girlfriend like to travel somewhere nice at least once a month. We could not the past couple months because of Kyle, but I promised my girlfriend we would go somewhere exotic for Valentine's. Upon hearing this, they got pretty mad, asking who was gonna take care of Kyle, and that I need to stop these childish trips, and that I need to take more responsibility because I'm an uncle now. I'm not gonna lie, after hearing this, I've freaking snapped. I said that their demon child isn't my responsibility, and I'm not just gonna give up my life because they did it without a rubber. It got pretty obscene from there and some horrible things were said. They left, and we are now no longer on speaking terms. My parents and Emma's parents are on their side and extremely angry at me for refusing to pull my weight. My parents said that this is my duty, and I should be sacrificing everything to help them. It honestly got me really down, and I've cried my eyes pretty much every day since seeing those messages from my family. I'm starting to wonder if I really should be taking more responsibility. Am I the a-hole for choosing my trips over my brother and nephew? Not the a-hole. Sounds like your and Emma's parents need to start doing their duty and watching their grandchild. If they're not willing to do that, all their huffing and puffing that you need to watch Kyle is just hot air. This is not your child, and you have no weight to pull. This just reeks of trying to gang up on you because you're the youngest and you're nice, and they think you're going to cave. Stay strong and keep your boundaries. As an uncle myself, the most responsibility we should be given is to tucker out the nieces and nephews at family gathering and nothing more. Emergency childcare, sure, but suddenly the third parent? Hell no. Sounds more like they think uncle is a free nanny and daycare. They abuse his willingness to help. The uncle has all the right in the world to take his girlfriend on a trip. He could have been a lot more thoughtful and could have managed to go to the in-laws for help. Sounds like the grandparents don't like to pull that weight in raising the grandkids. Not the a-hole. Stay strong in your decision. The fact that they are planning a second child with you as their childcare answer is scary. You need to make it clear that you don't run a daycare facility. Otherwise, you will have a demon child, plus a squawking baby needing diaper changes, feedings, etc. at your home during your work hours. Not the a-hole. Your family are guilting you because none of them can be asked to take care of the son either. Sorry this is happening to you, OP, but stand your ground. You're 100% right. Sounds like your brother and sister-in-law have become entitled to your help and forgotten what it's like to be solely responsible for your kid, so they've begun relying on your help. But as you so rightfully pointed out, this is totally a them problem. Your parents are probably joining in because they know if you stop looking after Kyle altogether, they'll be relied on a lot more. Also, about your outburst, yeah, maybe not the best way to react, but they pushed you to breaking point and you snapped. Also, they were being rude and unreasonable in their expectations, so I don't expect you to respond 100% calmly and rationally either. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not splitting my daughter's college fund? When my 42 female daughter, 17 female was 7, we lost her father to an avoidable accident. Due to that and a subsequent settlement, my daughter was able to have a trust fund of sorts that provided for college, grad school if she wanted, and even some left over for whatever life might bring. It is money that, if managed wisely, would enable her to have a head start in life. She knows about this, and is never taken for granted given where the money came from. After all, we'd both rather have her father around than the money. That said, life moves on, and I remarried 6 years after my husband's passing to a lovely man who has 2 children of his own, 17 female and 13 male. All of the children live with us primarily, with his children seeing their mother on vacations as she lives across the country. This year, both our girls are graduating and should be headed to college. My daughter was admitted to her dream school last year and is ecstatic about it. Her father was an alumnus, and she has this old sweatshirt of his that she kept to remind her of him. She cried so much when she got in, and both her stepfather and I were proud of her because she worked hard to get in. My stepdaughter will also be attending a wonderful school that is one of the top-ranked schools for her interests. The problem now arises with the money to pay for stepdaughter's school, because her parents cannot afford to pay the tuition in its entirety. Stepdaughter will have to take some loans. All told, she will graduate with about $40,000 in loans, which I think is still quite modest for the school she's attending, and her earning prospects post-graduation. But my daughter will graduate debt-free, and for my husband, this is suddenly a problem. He wants us to split my daughter's fund between all 3 kids, because then they could all probably have college fully paid for. My daughter won't have much left over, and will definitely need to borrow for grad school, which she has expressed interest in attending. But according to my husband, that's okay because everyone will start off on an equal footing post-college. I think this isn't fair to my daughter because 1, her father had to die for this money, and 2, this is like her inheritance from him. My husband thinks that they're all siblings and she should be happy to share the money with them if it means giving her siblings a head start in life. I absolutely do not want to put her in the position of being guilted into saying yes if she doesn't want to. I've expressed all of this to my husband and he thinks that I'm being selfish, that I'm teaching my daughter to be selfish, and I obviously don't consider my stepkids the same as my daughter. Am I the a-hole for wanting to protect my daughter's trust for her as it was intended? Edited to add, since I've seen this a few times already, both kids do have college funds but somewhat smaller because my husband and his ex got their finances in order later in life. So there is some money, but with the caliber of the school that stepdaughter will be attending, she will still need some loans to cover costs. I haven't brought up going to a cheaper school because that will be a fresh set of problems given where my daughter will be matriculating. Now for the top comments. Info. This is a difficult situation to judge as written. My question for you is this. Who has paid for your daughter's needs since you and your husband married? Has he contributed at all to her food, clothing, shelter, school-related expenses, extracurriculars, family trips, etc.? Or were those expenses borne solely by you and or the fund? Because if your current husband has contributed to his stepdaughter's expenses, I can see how he might think, I've spent thousands supporting this young woman over the years, money that could have come from her fund. Both my husband and I paid for things, because we both have careers and didn't nickel and dime in one another about who was buying what for whose kid. Not the a-hole. That settlement was for your deceased husband's children, not your future children, and certainly not someone else's. I agree, not the a-hole. The money is for your deceased husband's children, not your current husband's children. Keep your stance. This is your daughter's money from her father. The other children have money from their father. To me, your current husband is the a-hole for even suggesting it. Right? This needs to be nipped in the bud and not even open for discussion. OP. This is her inheritance from her father. It is from his death. Circumstances stole her father from her. I am not going to take away what he was able to give her. This is not open for discussion. Also, $40,000 is not that bad, and if she doesn't want that, she can go elsewhere. That's not necessarily for you to bring up, but her father should. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my son my car to pay off his debt? Let's start from the very beginning. Over 20 years ago, I divorced my then wife. I had 2 kids with her, my oldest son and my youngest daughter. I always had a very good relationship with my son. He was my one and only. At age 17, my son moved in with me and my girlfriend. I always try to get my daughter to move in too, but she refused. I tried to make it nice for us, but soon I realized that having another mouth to feed was emptying my bank account faster than I could see. I soon jumped from workplace to workplace and asked all my friends for money which I barely was able to pay back. So, I started asking my son for money. He paid for groceries here and there over the years. Then he helped me with some bills and even got a credit card on his name for us to use, since I couldn't get one due to my debt. It went well for a few years, but still my money was always on the low. I forgot to pay my car insurance for a few months and they ended my contract. So I created a new one with my son's name on it. I asked him, of course, as always, so he always knew what he was getting himself into. Soon, he moved out and moved in with his girlfriend. She was a very nice girl, or so I thought. He soon asked me to pay him back some money since now he had some credit card debt. He did the math and it summed up to around $10,000. I really didn't have that kind of money, and he knew that, and he soon went no contact. He visited me and we talked normally for some time. Then he started asking me for my car. He asked me if I could give him my car so he could sell it to pay off his debts. I told him no immediately. I needed a car for my new job since it was in the neighboring city. He told me to take the train and bus and that there were cheap tickets and my job could help me get a permanent ticket. I told him that I couldn't do that. That was at the end of 2021. I told him if I didn't have the money for his debt until January of 2022, he could have the car. After that conversation, he went no contact again. January came and I didn't have the money. I really couldn't bring it up and I told him that. He asked me about my promise and a car, but I know I didn't promise him anything. I told him I still need a car. We had a long fight over the phone in which his girlfriend said that a loving father wouldn't do something like that to his son, with which she meant all the money I took from him. And with that statement, she was dead to me. I got diagnosed with depression due to the situation. I do regret my mistakes, but I think he made me suffer enough. I miss my son, but until he apologizes for treating me like this, I don't want to have anything to do with him either. I feel so torn. My daughter isn't there for me either. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole and the worst kind of deadbeat. He's worse than a deadbeat. He's racking up debt in his son's name and refusing to pay him back. There's a 0% chance the son's credit card debt isn't related to Opie's spending. I like how it's also somehow the new girlfriend's fault, who Opie thought was a nice girl, that the son doesn't want to be financially used anymore. I was waiting for why she wasn't nice. Oh, she dared stand up for her son. Jeez, you're the a-hole, Opie. I'm the daughter and my father, Opie, sent me this post so I can defend him in the comments. I won't be doing that though, lol. Please take this deadbeat to court and use this post as evidence he agreed to pay your brother back. Let me tell you something. My brother took my father to court together with a computer firm. My father bought an $800 screen under my brother's name but couldn't pay for it, so the company sued my brother. He then went to a lawyer to show him other things he's done under my brother's and even my name, things he didn't even know about. He could clear his name and is now going to court with the company against my father. Your father is a trash. I'm sorry you and your siblings have a selfish mooch of a father. Last story. Am I the a-hole for calling the police when the people I was babysitting for would not answer their phone? Hi, I'm 14 and I babysit for a few people in my neighborhood. On Friday, I was babysitting for a couple that moved into the city from the south. They're only a block from my house, so my parents were okay with me staying there until 10 as they said they would be home by 9. They did not get home at 9. At 9:45, I started texting them to see if they were on the way. Then I called my parents. My mom came over because I was getting worried. It had snowed pretty bad on Friday and they weren't answering. At 11:30, we phoned the police as I was freaking out. The police got their names and address and I guess found their license plates like that. They found them in about 25 minutes. They were at their friend's house. They called me and they were mad that I called the police. I promise, I wouldn't have called the police if they had answered my texts or calls, and my mom was concerned as well. I didn't call to get them in trouble. I was worried. But they told my mom that I'm not mature enough to be babysitting if that's how I'm going to behave. I feel kind of bad that the police made them come home from their friend's house. But I think that they should have answered the phone. What if there was something wrong with their kids? Not the a-hole. The parents were taking advantage of you. You did everything you should have, including trying to reach them, contacting your mother, and then contacting the police. You've done nothing wrong. The parents are angry at being caught out on bad behavior. Yes, this was the epitome of maturity. Opie had valid reasons to be worried. They were the jerks here, not you, Opie, and not your mom. If they were responsible parents, they would have answered your calls. Or, gasp, gotten home on time as promised? Don't let them get you. Not the a-hole. 1. You are a literal child. 2. They gave you an undertaking and failed to keep it or inform you. 3. You attempted to contact them first. 4. You sought advice from an adult, your mom. 5. They disrespected not only you, but your parents who were comfortable allowing you out until 10, not early midnight. 6. You had no option to just go home when they didn't show, because you were still responsible for their children. They're a-holes, and you should warn other babysitters off them. Not the a-hole Opie. But for clarity, I think they only phoned police at 11:30. It then took 25 minutes for police to locate them. At the very least, it would be another half hours for them to be home because police are gonna do a quick interview there and then before releasing them home. It's gonna be well after midnight. Never babysit for them again, OP. Not day hole. 3 things. 1. You said they moved to your city from the south. I assume you mean a state that doesn't get a lot of snow? I live in Canada, and when it snows here, the people who have lived here their entire lives forget how to drive. They could have been in an accident. 2. They were jerks for not giving you the phone number of the place they were going to be. Cell phones run out of power and get left in purses. They should have given you contact information. 3. You got advice from your mom. You didn't do this without thinking it through, or out of spite. You had legitimate concerns, and they were enough for your mom to agree that calling the police was a good idea. You did the exact right thing. They were upset because a 14-year-old girl was more responsible than they were. Am I the a-hole for asking my sister-in-law if she didn't want kids? Why did she get pregnant? So this title is bad, I acknowledge this, but allow me to introduce you to my sister-in-law, Laurel. Laurel married my brother around 5 years ago. They had always been child-free and extremely proud of it, which I'm to a point. She has always been disparaging of children and the idea of children, and consistently would judge other mothers around us for how they handled their own kids. She would comment rude things about people who would breastfeed in public, or even be bold enough to tell them, "You should cover up because my husband can see you too." Overall, Laurel doesn't like kids. Well, guess what? Laurel is pregnant now, and both her and my brother planned this pregnancy, so it's not an accident. The family was very excited, but Laurel has made a misery out of the entire pregnancy, and to be honest, we know she plans to make a misery out of her poor kid's life as well. The baby is a girl, and she'll say things like, "I don't want to deal with her long hair, so I'll shave it off to keep it maintainable." Or, "I hate dresses. I'll never let her wear those." She refuses to let us buy the baby toys or anything enjoyable, saying that the child won't want those till they're like 3 years old. I don't even like babies, but I know that's a complete lie. I finally snapped when she was at a family dinner. She kept telling us how terrible it was to have to get the baby's room ready, and how she hated having to buy everything for it. How this kid was already so expensive and wasn't even here yet, and making her life miserable. I asked her why she got pregnant if she didn't want this kid. That was a bowling ball catastrophe. And even though my brother often tells me he asks the same thing, apparently Laurel doesn't like getting called out about her behavior toward her unborn child. Am I the a-hole for asking her if she didn't want kids, why did she get pregnant? Edit. Something else I'd like to add. Laurel's currently 35. She isn't young, and neither is my brother. Now for the top comments. Not a hole. For Pete's sake, somebody had to ask. How does the brother not even know? How did this not come up during the planning? This isn't even an elephant in the room. It's a blue whale. Oh, he knows. He's just not talking for some reason. Not a hole. She has his balls in her purse. This is a situation ripe for child mistreatment. Opie should have CPS on speed dial, ready to push that button the moment they suspect the kid is being mistreated. Not a hole. But please plan on being the most awesome auntie ever. I have a feeling your niece will need someone in her life desperately. Heck yeah. Even if Laurel decides to cut it off with me, and by extension my brother because she has him in her pocket, I'll always be here for that kid in the future. Next story. Am I the a-hole for moving to avoid adopting my niece? My cousin had been on a bit of a wild child strike and ended up in prison. She got out and had her daughter, which made everyone think she's going to get it together. Well, she didn't. And my aunt had to take over all the parenting duties to keep CPS from taking her away. My aunt is now in her 50s and not healthy enough to care for my niece, who has started acting out in the same way as her mother. My cousin flits in and out of my niece's life and taken her back occasionally, only to bring her back to my aunt when she can't handle her anymore. The child has been in juvie already, and it seems she's going the same way as my cousin. My aunt is running out of options as my niece runs around town, and she isn't healthy enough to drive around searching for her in the middle of the night. So my aunt is trying to get the rest of the family to take care of her, but everyone refuses. My aunt is now pressuring me to adopt my cousin, who is 14. She doesn't mean legally, but to assume responsibility until the age of 18. My family is also taken to pressuring me since it will mean the pressure is taken off them. Also, most of them have person problems, kids. I don't want my niece to ruin their kids, while I don't have any. I absolutely don't want to. I don't want my cousin in my life, which will be inevitable if I adopt my niece. And my niece? She's basically my cousin on steroids. I have no idea how my cousin and niece ended up so messed up, and I don't want to wait to see my own life be ruined if I have to take care of my niece. Hell, I resisted not getting a dog during the pandemic because I couldn't commit to one long term, so there's no way I can commit to a child. I get emails and texts, and my aunt's banging on my door semi-frequently, once a week, dragging my niece in tow trying to get me to let her in. I have literally been in tears begging them to leave me alone. But we all live 2 to 3 hours away from each other. Only my mom is telling me not to do it. My boyfriend noticed the craziness from my family and the midnight phone calls from my aunt trying to get me to come pick her up and ask what we should do. I told him I just didn't want to be involved, and he suggested we move. We've been thinking of moving for a while now, actually. His family's in Oregon, and I've been thinking of moving for a few years. His family has a house that they're trying to rent out, and we could try there for a few weeks. We did that, and we're now in Oregon. I know my family aren't going to chase me here, and it's quiet. We went back to Arkansas for a few days to pack up what's left and visit some old friends. Somehow, someone let it slip I was coming because my aunt is at my door screaming at me for leaving without a word. My boyfriend calls his friend to come help us take the rest of our stuff, and we leave. Then I see my aunt drop to her knees crying, and now I feel horrible since she's such a proud woman, and I've never seen her like this. I know what's best for me, not adopting my niece, but am I the a-hole here? 100% not the a-hole. In my opinion, what she is asking you is completely insane. Do not feel bad. You did what you had to do. Your aunt is in a horrible situation, but it is not your fault and not your responsibility to fix. My family's also taken to pressuring me since it will mean the pressure is taken off them. Definitely not the a-hole. Notice how everyone else wants you to do it, so they don't have to. You made a right choice. This reminds me of a saying I once heard. Raise your kids right or raise your grandkids. Sounds like she's trying to force the grandkid onto someone else after failing to raise her own kid. Not the a-hole. Sorry you had to get run out of your own home to avoid all this crazy. But on the upside, Oregon is a nice place. Underrated wine country too. Also, do try to find out who the rat is that told your aunt had cut them out like cancer. Not the a-hole. Your cousin's child is not your child, and not your responsibility. I feel sorry for this girl as her mother has clearly done a number on her. She may also be acting out because she feels like no one wants her. As tragic as that is, again, this is not a burden that you should have to assume. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for turning my plate around after being served dinner by my mother-in-law? My husband, 29 male, and I, 23 female, have been married for a year, but have been together for almost 3 years now. We are currently staying with my in-laws for 2 weeks, whilst our house gets painted. My sister-in-law and her husband and 2 kids are also living with my in-laws as well. Sadly, my mother-in-law doesn't like me very much, and she wanted my husband to marry one of her friend's daughter, who was also his ex. But I still try to be as friendly as possible with her, since she is my husband's mother. I just want to add that we could have stayed in a hotel, but my mother-in-law insisted that my husband stay with them. So, I was helping my mother-in-law cook dinner. We made a simple dish of salmon and some veggies, and she plated the food and placed them on the dinner table whilst I were making our dessert. I had made an apple crumble beforehand, but it was too sweet for her liking, so she told me to make it again. After we all sat down to eat, I noticed the way my plate was oriented, and the salmon was on the right and the veggies were on the left. For nearly everyone, this isn't a big deal and wouldn't bother them. But I have a bit of a quirk that my meat/fish should always be on the left, and any vegetables or sides should be on the right. It's very hard to explain, but unless I move my food around so that the meat is on the left and anything else is on the right, I find it very hard to eat and swallow. To solve this issue, I just turned my plate in 180 degrees so that the salmon would be on the left and the veggies on the right. I didn't say anything or make any expression, but my mother-in-law noticed me turning my plate around and started to blow up. She said that moving something that was already set on the table was bad manners, and couldn't believe how rude I was being in her house. I apologized and tried to explain that I just had this thing where one thing needs to be on a certain side, but she interrupted me and went on a tangent saying that this shows how immature I am, and that my husband's ex never behaved like this. My husband tried to calm her down, saying that we shouldn't argue whilst having dinner, but then she started complaining about how I couldn't cook because whilst making dinner together, she kept having a problem with how big I cut the veggies, even though they were perfectly normal sized, and how bad of a wife I was for not being able to do simple things. Throughout the entire meal, she kept complaining, and I felt horrible and was pretty much on the verge of tears. My sister-in-law later told me that her kids are more mature than I am, and my husband also got annoyed at me and said I ruined dinner for the whole family, and this whole mess could have been avoided if I had done nothing. I now feel horrible for ruining dinner, especially since my husband works a lot and doesn't see his family often. Now for the comments. Not an a-hole, but your mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and dear husband are. They sound like toxic people. Your husband should have your back here. Go stay in a hotel, for your sanity if anything. And find a good divorce lawyer as well. This is mistreatment. What a horribly vindictive family, and how incredibly telling it is for your husband to gang up on you. All because you turned your plate around? Turned your plate around? What planet are these people from where turning your plate around is even noticed? This was absolutely a setup by mother-in-law, who intended to do this to you so she could bring up the ex. And sister-in-law took the opportunity to make you feel worse, and your husband piled on the first opportunity. Unless he's willing to go through some serious therapy to fix these massive issues, you will eventually divorce. I would cut my losses at this point if he isn't immediately, genuinely, and completely apologetic. You have done nothing wrong in this, even if you had cut the vegetables wrong. Not stay home. Your mother-in-law and sister-in-law are looking for an excuse to put you down. It didn't matter if you were perfect. They would have found something. I'm more concerned that your husband didn't 100% have your back while you were being mistreated by his family. I know you didn't ask for advice, but this sounds like it could be a very troublesome marriage. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that her infertility is not my problem? I'm 18 female and 34 weeks pregnant. My sister is 35 female and suffers with infertility. She has no kids and is starting to look into adoption. When I told her I was pregnant, she immediately started going crazy. She said it's not fair, that I'm abusing my fertility, and that I should give my baby up because I have life to live. It's been like this my entire pregnancy. Most recently, she started asking me if I want to try a co-parenting relationship with her, where I give her my baby 2 days of the week and make her a legal custodian. I said no to this one too. She also keeps asking me to adopt my baby to her, and it's just not happening. She came over for brunch this morning and brought up the idea of her adopting my baby. I am very much prepared for. This time, I snapped and said to her, I don't understand what it's like not to be able to have children, but your fertility is not my problem to solve, and I am not giving you my child. Please don't push me. Everyone in the room thinks I am the a-hole for this, and my parents are giving me the cold shoulder for being so insensitive. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Do not let your sister babysit. Do not leave her alone with your child. 1 million times this. This is a true crime documentary waiting to happen. I think there was an episode like this of Twisted Sisters on Discovery ID. There was. She found out her sister was pregnant, lied to her husband that she was pregnant too, faked her entire pregnancy, gave birth alone a few days after her sister, then took her sister and new baby on a drive, offed her sister with a rock to the head and pushed her over a bridge. She took the baby home, and her husband returned, who then called the police when he realized the baby looked an awful lot like her sister's. She had blood on her and was not acting normal. Not the a-hole, because how many times do you have to say no? Tell her to accept the no and move on, because if she doesn't, then you're done talking to her until she does. Your parents are trying to comfort her, but not realizing they're just not acting right towards you. Talk to them. Tell them you shouldn't have to keep hearing it from her over and over again. Congratulations on your baby. Edited to add, I agree with others who have said to please do not ever leave your baby with your sister. She sounds desperate enough to take the baby and run. Yeah, no. You're not an a-hole for not giving away your child. How the hell does that even sound? How does this even cross someone's mind? This is so crazy to the point it sounds a little bit unreal. Not an a-hole. Given the fact that she's literally trying to beg, buy, or steal your baby, what you said is mild. Struggling with infertility is rough. I hope your sister recognizes that she needs therapy to cope, because she's clearly not coping well. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she won't get to babysit again while her boyfriend is around? I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. I have a younger sister who about a year ago started dating a guy I went to high school with. The guy was not a good guy then, and he got into trouble, was arrested, treated others terribly, and did some things that show he is not a good person to have around kids. My sister is normally a really reliable and trustworthy person, but her taste in men has never been good. She dated a guy who had kids and didn't take care of them and wanted to marry him. She dated a dealer for a while. She dated a guy who went to prison 2 months in and stayed with him for a few months after his release because she didn't believe his stealing from his brother's girlfriend was enough reason to break up. This current guy is still rough around the edges, to say the least. I met him twice since, and the second time, he tried to pick a fight with my husband because they disagreed on a video game and he, sister's boyfriend, was mad. We're talking real mad, to the point my husband had to just leave. My sister had babysat a couple of times for us in the past, and she loved doing it. Then 2 weekends ago, my husband and I were having a night out with friends. She offered to babysit, but I said it was okay, we already had plans made, which was true, but those plans were my husband's parents who were out of the way. My sister realized this after my daughter told her that grandma gave her ice cream for dinner. My sister was hurt that I didn't make the easy decision of her. I told her I didn't feel comfortable leaving my kids with her while her boyfriend is around. She told me I judged him too hard. We talked at length about him before. She claims he has changed, that he was always misunderstood, etc. I told her she wasn't in school with him, and she didn't see his crap on a daily basis back then. I also pointed out his reaction over a video game disagreement, but she said he was just having a bad day. So I told her I wouldn't want him having a bad day around my kids. She said I should still trust her and rely on her to take care of my kids. I told her there will be no babysitting for her while he's around. She said he's going to be their uncle, so I better get used to him being around. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. People change from high school, but he clearly still has anger issues if he actually gets mad about a disagreement about video games. Opie has a duty to protect her children. I'd rather have hurt feelings than put my kids in a potentially dangerous situation. I told her I wouldn't want him having a bad day around my kids. Exactly my thoughts. If he blows up about video games and wants to fight a grown man, he's very likely to blow up at smaller annoyances. And kids, while I love them, can be annoying. Not stay home. Keep them away from him. Not stay home. She said he's going to be their uncle, so I better get used to him being around. Okay, she can marry whoever she wants. You can assign whoever you want as a babysitter.